This is Fossilsaurus. I'm coming at you with something pretty cool. It is related to anomalocaris. It is not, however. Now, it is a radiodont, which is actually the group that anomalocaris are in. Now, unfortunately, anomalocaris is used too widely. Too many people just call, as a group, they call like this wide range of animals that look similar anomalocaris, and it's understandable because some of them look almost exactly the same, but they're different enough that they're different families. So they're all in the same group, radiodontid, but they're not all anomalocarids. When you look at a wide spectrum, or even a picture that has like 6 or 7 or 8 different things on there, I promise you that they're not all anomalocarids. It's just something some of them they're just radiodonts. It's used too interchangeably, and I myself am guilty of that also sometimes. I try not to, but sometimes it just kind of slips out. So I do my best, and I apologize now because I will probably do it again sometime in the future, especially since I know that aside from this one coming up, at least one of the few more anomalocaris fossils that I've found are not actually anomalocaris and are a different family that are just radiodonts. So I can already see myself accidentally calling it an anomalocaris at some point. So, sorry. Now, this is very unique. You can see from the size also. This is from a relatively very newly discovered radiodont. I believe much later. I think from Cambrian still, but it was definitely, or almost definitely, I don't like using such definitive words when I can help it. Almost definitely it was from the Ordovician also. Now this is just part of the appendage. It's not even the full appendage. They have long appendages that have filter feeding mechanisms coming off. Like the other anomalocarid appendages, they had little spikes coming down the entire way. This is one of those spikes. This is just the equivalent, but they have very long ones like that. So this was a very large animal. I mean, this isn't the entire thing. It could have gone just a little bit further. It might have gone even further. Not entirely sure. I couldn't even begin to give you a size estimate on this. I mean, I guess I could begin to. This would have to be an animal over 2 feet, maybe 3 feet, something like that. Now, this is the largest known radiodontid in the anomalocarid family. Far, far larger than any of the other ones. The main anomalocarid, which is like the poster boy for the whole radiodontid group, far, far larger than any of the other ones, and it only got to about 1 meter, a little bit bigger. Most anomalocaridids, I mean, they were tiny, a little bit bigger, but most of the animals from that time in the Cambrian and early Ordovician were animals that were no bigger than a couple centimeters or so on, and those were like the largest. So there was obviously also animals just millimeters long. So you could have an anomalocarid this big successfully hunting down little tiny things, little tiny microfauna. Now, there's not too much I can say about this, partly because it's a relatively new, known to science animal, and I am less familiar with it in general. I did look into it some, but a lot about it is similar enough to the anomalocaridid. I'm sorry, that's how that's what they're called, anomalocaridids, not anomalocarids. They're similar enough that I would be repeating the other video quite a bit. Biologically, they're very similar in many ways, except for, of course, size, feeding habits, so on. But so I mean, I guess there's a significant enough biological difference, but there's enough similarities that I feel it would be too repetitive of a video to just start from scratch, like with just a new radiodontid. Now, as you can see, there appears to be 3 sections here. So this appears to be 3 filter mechanisms. Now, it is possible that these are just 3 different sections of the same mechanism, but I don't believe so. I believe that these are 3 separate units, and these are what is found most of the time. The size of these means that their armor, their shell, was much thicker than equivalent smaller animals. So there are actually quite a few fossil examples, even just quite a few that go up for sale. Examples of the carapace, very expensive, well beyond my means, but it's pretty cool. I mean, just their size alone lends them to be able to be fossilized more readily, or parts of them fossilized more readily than the smaller ones. It may also be because even comparatively they had a tougher exoskeleton, because it's argued still, I think a lot of people settled on the fact that they do have somewhat of a harder exoskeleton, but it is still argued that the other anomalocaridids and radiodontids, or radiodonts, they were soft-bodied and did not have any kind of exoskeleton. My understanding is that not hard exoskeleton like a lobster, but thinner, so where it's still like flexible, you could push it in and dent it, not shatter it, kind of situation. But that they did have some kind of harder covering to them. That's just my understanding, and of course that's an ongoing argument, so even if I'm right about that being, even if my understanding is correct of what I've been reading and looking at, it doesn't mean it's the correct answer to the argument. So, these guys are very cool. I do like them a lot, but and they look very cool. They're very cool looking, as you'll see from the pictures, but it's probably just the filter feeding aspect. I fawn over them less than I do about the super predator, other anomalocaridids. The other ones, I mean, you could see the mouth, the eyes stick out more. It's just, they're so cool looking. And these guys are so cool looking too, but it's in a different way. I don't know. I don't like saying I don't like them as much. I feel bad saying that, but I think I do like the predatory ones a little bit more. But these guys are very cool animals, very unique. They may have been the first large filter feeder. In fact, they probably were, because the other ones were the first super predators. And you know how a lot of filter feeders throughout history, and even nowadays, like whales and whale sharks and so on, a lot of the things that eat the smallest animals are going to be the biggest animals, which goes all the way back to this. This was by far the biggest animal because it was relying on eating plankton. So that is a pattern that has been going back since the beginning, well, practically the beginning of multicellular animals. I mean, it's very cool. I know I keep repeating myself there, because these things are very cool. All the animals that I'm bringing up and talking about, very cool is an understatement. Some of these things are mind-blowing, and when you look at them and you start thinking about them and reading about them, they might seem so and so cool, or even cooler and getting cooler, but the more you really think about them and the more you look at them, I feel the cooler they get. And I don't think I've reached a point where most things stop getting cooler the more you think about them and the more you look at them. So yeah, I wish there was more information I could give you about these guys, but it's kind of limited, or at least my understanding is kind of limited on these. It's not the most impressive looking fossil, but it is cool when you kind of just consider what it is and just the size of it too. So even though this is not one of the largest of them, this is a very large animal that this came from, for the time. So thank you very much for sticking through this for what may not have been one of my more exciting videos. Some of you, it may have been just as good as other ones. I don't know. I hope so. I hope many of you found it just as, or at least very similarly interesting to the other ones. I would really appreciate giving me some likes, subscribing to my videos. I hope to see you in my next one. Thank you guys so much.